It's hard to share and hard to stop. Wow. Pat.
Right here. I'm going to lighten things up considerably. 4 years ago at Branson Veterans Week, an 85-year-old lady, charming lady, little blonde-headed lady, came up to me and was telling me her story. And in 1945, she played with an all-girl band, well, all through the 40s. She grew up in Chicago. All the band members were from Chicago. They had a band, and they were playing in the eastern half of the United States. The USO came to one of their performances and asked them to do an overseas tour. They said yes. They had brothers, they had sweethearts that were overseas, and they were filled with the patriotism of that generation. So they were ready to go overseas. So what I have done is take letters. These girls, let me show you the back of the cover for a minute. You can't see it from here very clearly, but they were 12 beautiful young ladies at the time the book was written. They were prolific letter writers. They believed that they needed to send home all the details of their experiences because they were seeing so much so fast that they wouldn't remember it all. They got all their shots, got all ready for their trip. They were very excited because they were going to be paid $84 a week. They would be allowed to keep $4. $80 would be put in the bank for them when they came home. They would wear the uniform of lieutenant nurses, lieutenant whatever they were, and that was their official uniform. So they went overseas. They saw history. They became a part of history because they were there when things were happening. They joined the USO in 1944. By the time that they got their show together in New York, rehearsed with people like Bob Hope and others that were doing their own tours, it was 1945. In 1945, August 5th, they boarded a ship out of San Francisco. On August 6th, the U.S. bombed Hiroshima. One of the girls wrote home. She's aboard ship at this time. We played a show for the boys this afternoon. They set us up out in the open on a hatch. They were the most appreciative audience we've ever played for. They were out of the States only 3 days and already hungry for entertainment. I wonder what it will be like to play for an audience that hasn't been home for 2 or more years. Then they go on, they get to Manila. And when they came into Manila, they were shocked that the city was in total destruction. Everything was army. They saw very few people, Filipino people. It was all army people that were there. The war was just ending. On August 19th, the Japanese surrendered in Manila. One of the girls writes home on August 20th. Today we played at Rizal Stadium. It seats 15,000 people. I have never been so thrilled listening to a crowd cheer and whistle in all my life. 5,000 men were turned away. I was told that some of the fellows started to cry when they couldn't get in. They took 3-day passes so they could travel to see us, and then they couldn't get in. I guess we will play there again. Then at MacArthur's request, they went to Japan. Oh, before they go to Japan, I want to read you one other thing. They were fortunate enough to be able to attend a day of General Yamashita's war crimes trial. Laura wrote home. This morning, several of us got up bright and early at 6:30 and headed for the High Commissioner's building where the Japanese war criminal trials are being held. Today was one of the hearings of General Yamashita. The public was admitted, but only 150 persons. We stood in line about a half an hour, and they let us in. The men were frisked at the gate, but all the women, all 15 of us, were herded into a small room where a matron went over our clothing. She took my nail file and a small pocket knife I had in my purse. We entered the court and were told to refrain from all noise, laughter, and any kind of intrusion. We stood at attention until the commission was seated and the hearing proceeded. The first witness was an elderly American school teacher. She had been teaching economics in the Philippines since 1914. Therefore, she knew all the facts about nutrition. Haven't figured that one out yet. She was interned at Santo Tomas in Manila in 1942. Her normal weight was 145 pounds. When she was liberated, she weighed only 85 pounds. She told of eating grass and leaves of plants because they were so hungry. The Japanese fed them only rice. The prosecuting attorney read several sworn statements from internees who had returned to the States. One said the Japanese confiscated their Red Cross parcels, so they only received 2.5 parcels each on Christmas Day. Due to the absence of vitamin B, beriberi was prominent. Other diseases were rickets, scurvy, and dysentery. The second witness was a Filipino lad who told of 300 Filipinos being forced to jump into a well. They were fired upon. Rocks and stones and other missiles were thrown in on top of them. Only 6 lived through it. Another witness told of being one of the victims in another such incident. Although the outcome was inevitable, the attorney for the defense, an American captain, put up a wonderful fight. Yamashita is being given a fair trial by law, the American way. Viewpoint of a young girl. Okay, then in Japan, when they get to Japan, one of the girls says, "Most of the Japanese had never seen a white person, and everyone wanted to shake our hand and touch our hair. I recall telling my mother that I felt I could run for office because I had shaken so many hands. The women wore kimonos, and the men wore tattered military uniforms. Very few wore Western-style suits." And then, just to give you a little bit, in 1945, they have a recording, which I wish I would have brought, but from Osaka, Japan. And this is the way they were introduced. These are delightful ladies. 6 of them are still living. 5 of them are coming to Branson next month to launch this book. So I'm very excited about it. They're all in their late 80s. Good afternoon, everyone. It's USO time. And now at 4 o'clock at WBTQ, it's special USO time. And if you were here, you'd see exactly what I mean. For this afternoon, it's Sharon Rogers and her orchestra. All girls, fellas, 16 of them, and fresh from the States just 3 months ago. They've come from the Philippines, where they've been putting on their show for the past 3 months for every GI within 1,000,000 miles. You'll love to see them. It's their first, men, their first show in Japan.